Do Gnostics celebrate Christmas? Well, if the true meaning of Christmas is the incarnation of a God in flesh, then Gnostics have a lot to celebrate. But we must consider it partial and unenlightened to imagine that only one particular God was born on one particular day 2,000 years ago. The truth is, you and I can be born as gods any day, any moment. The Logos become flesh is not just a historical event, but an ever present possibility for all people. If we can see the truth of incarnation in one story, we can see it in every story, including our own. The magic of Christmas does not die when we leave the bright and beautiful world of childhood. The magic only gets deeper. It exists much deeper than our personal interests or scholarly fixations. We can explain how the gospel according to Matthew is different from Luke in the birth story. We can try to figure out the exact date and time of Jesus' birth and what stellar conjunction appeared in the night sky and whether Jesus was truly laid in an ox trough. These topics are no doubt interesting, but they lead us away from the true magic of the holy day. The real question a Gnostic might ponder is, do you think God can become incarnate in you? Are you, even now, a God walking about in flesh? I dare say that the birth of Jesus means precisely nothing if God has not already been born in you. When I was doing the research for my book, Jesus Deus, which means Jesus the God, I discovered something that you might already know. When it comes to great heroes and sages, their birth stories are typically the last to be told in time. After all, no one knows that a hero will be a hero until they become one, and that usually occurs in one's adult life, and often long after death, as was the case for Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Martin Luther King Jr., and so many others. A hero must perform some magnificent deed, and it's only when the hero has accrued lasting fame that people turn back and get interested in his or her birth or early life. Often the memories of that early life have all but perished, but they can always be invented. There will always be some distinct details in birth stories, but most heroic birth stories are invented by combining story types and patterns that are as old as human language. For tens of thousands of years, humans have been telling stories about special births from barren or virgin women, births announced by divine messengers, sometimes involving wicked rulers as opponents, and special hardship for the parents. The stories sometimes include precocious children who rise up out of a state of social disadvantage. You can investigate almost any culture and you'll find stories like these. The parallels aren't always due to diffusion, but to perduring cognitive structures in our minds. Now, you can spend your whole life collecting all the parallels to these stories while neglecting to ask the more important question, which is this: who will write the story of your divine birth? Friends, let me tell you something. There is actually nothing amazing about a God being born as a Jewish peasant in first century Palestine. The reason is because God is also born today in a Vietnamese house cleaner, a Chinese businessman, and a Ukrainian soldier. It's happening right now. The divine spark or seed is the treasure hidden in the field of your heart. All you must do is dig. This is going to sound incredibly selfish at first, but it is nonetheless true. In the end, the Christmas story, or rather stories, are about you, and they can help you realize your own divinity. So use the stories to find out who you are. Know yourself. I don't know how you found me on the internet. Maybe it was the gods. Maybe it was the algorithm. At any rate, somehow your interests coincide with mine. It's perfectly okay to be interested in a topic, but ask yourself why you are interested. What's the source of your intellectual craving? Aren't you in some way trying to find yourself? You would still be a fool if you knew all the knowledge in the world, but failed to know yourself. Admittedly, it's hard to make any kind of self-realization when you're walking in the commercial booby trap of your local mall, hypnotized by the lulling background music, walking in a parade of shoppers, trying not to brush too closely. You get hungrier and hungrier as you pass the images and signs in the food court, and you develop the need for a chemical surge, that surge we might call the buying boost, that spike of fleeting happiness that happens when you purchase the latest. Unfortunately, the law of mood is that what goes up must come down. Here's a secret. Don't tell your mother, but I think she already knows it. The best gifts are those for which you cannot shop. Are you a Gnostic? A Gnostic doesn't need to believe in a kingdom of archons, an evil creator, fallen wisdom, or complex metaphysics. You just need to pay attention to the real signs of the divine spark, which are closer than your jugular vein. This is the star rising, not in some ancient myth, but in your heart. All the myths are but signs and symbols of the inner realization. So take note of these signs, the serendipities of your life, the synchronicities, the small miracles that keep broken families together, the random acts of kindness that keep bellies full and minds open. We must all obey our nature. Some will never change their pattern of thinking, even after 1,000 lifetimes. Some will continue to mistake social acceptance for theological correctness, maybe vice versa. The faith of some will never mature into gnosis. Some think that they have special knowledge, but they use it in the wrong way to bash other people with calculated criticisms. For some, what goes under the name of knowledge is just AI rehash decorated with some cool graphics. I personally can celebrate 10K subscribers or 100K, but I mourn that some faceless corporate executives make millions on advertising for videos while paying the creators of these videos a mere pittance. My friends, we don't need angelic archons. We've already created our own corporate archons, our own paradises of delight, our own matrix in which we need to think nothing higher than how we can justify our own views. The miracle of Christmas is ever present. It is the divine light coming toward us, the higher self of the divine consciousness born in our minds, causing us to think in higher ways, to think the thought that lasts forever. The truth is, everything around you will be forgotten. Everything spoken here on this platform will slip into the stream of oblivion, including this video. What will remain is the wisdom thundering in silence. The philosopher Nietzsche spoke of the camel, the lion, and the child. The camel is the conservative believer who unthinkingly bears the burden of tradition because their pastor or priest told them to do so, or because the Bible, though it has no mouth, told them so. Then there is the lion, the rebel who throws off the yoke of tradition, rejoicing in the freedom to think, cultivating the occasional conspiracy theory while attacking other viewpoints with claws and teeth. Dare I say that most YouTube creators are lions? But there's another stage, that of the child, someone who learns or relearns the art of wonder, who drops the ego, learns the mysteries of creation with a sense of gratitude. They don't spend their short time on earth blasting the beliefs of camels or hunting lions on the internet, but with gentleness and quietness, they pursue the truth that satisfies head and heart. The truth is out there, to quote a hackneyed phrase. Skepticism is not hopeless. The trouble is, truth does not come into the world garlanded with glitz and glitter. It's not gaudy with graphics or decked out with gigabyte-sized pixels. The truth typically creeps in quietly, in the silence of the midnight hour, bringing with it the gift of humility and gratitude, opening the heart to higher revelation. The truth is, friends, God doesn't exist, except in you. You're the reason for the season, because the divine is born in and through you. It's called divine consciousness, which is much higher than mere sentience or rational thought. And if this higher light is not in you already, you will see it nowhere else. Light is known by light. You won't find it in the Bible or in any sacred text. The sacred texts are there to remind you and to teach you to find the light you already have. Without light, you would get nothing from reading any holy book in any language or from watching this very video. But if your eye is good, then a slum can become a paradise. Hell can turn into heaven, the ugly into the beautiful, the irreparable into the whole. These are the truths realized, not in a sedated state brought on by a mix of alcohol and eggnog. They arrive in the darkest night of your soul, in the coldest season of your life, when all seems barren and devoid of life. That's when your inner spark, evergreen, manifests. The star of your heart ascends, and the peace that passes understanding perdures. So go ahead, celebrate the incarnation, but not only in a Nazarene peasant, or in the Buddha or Krishna or whoever. Celebrate the incarnation in your own flesh. Flesh which may be disabled and torn, beaten, even violated. The miracle which got you here, the spark which, when combined with other sparks, becomes a fire great enough to burn down this cosmos, riddled with vice and systemic injustice. That fire is also a creative fire, which does not burn only, but builds new worlds. It creates not just new hopes, but actual realities. Of course, you must believe to receive this gift. It's not a science experiment. After you've believed, you enter the world of Gnosis, and you can realize the divine within. And friends, it is in this sense, then, that I can wish all of you a very Merry Christmas.